Good evening to the second set in lecture series on astrology. So, yesterday we discussed about the planets, some of the grahas, namely the sun and the moon. And we discussed that each planet has certain significations in astrology and in our lifetime. Similarly, there are houses. Now, houses are called bhavas. Bhava literally means a space, and each bhava represents various kinds of things relating to a human being. We know that it is a microcosm of the macro universe, so all the planets are present within us. The houses are 12 in nature. Each sign, any sign can become any house based upon the ascendant. So to start with, let's understand what ascendant is. Now, ascendant is nothing but the sign which rises in the east during our birth. To understand this more clearly, we should have some astronomical knowledge of how the rotation of planets take place. We know that the Earth rotates on itself, on its own, around itself. So when it rotates around itself, on one particular point, if we take one particular point on Earth, that particular point would transit over all the 12 signs of the zodiac, and at one particular point when an event takes place or a person is born, on that particular point the sign rising in the east is called the ascendant. Now the importance of ascendant is very huge in as per astrology. The ascendant represents our physical body, the way we look, the influence upon the ascendant, the nakshatra in which the ascendant is placed, the kind of physique we would have. The planet which influences the ascendant would show the kind of physique we have. Not only that, all the predictions, most of the predictions are done with the help of ascendant. In very few cases where the ascendant is, it could be on either sign or different sign or in between, it is placed in between a sign. There is a possibility that we take moon as the ascendant and make prediction. Um, Predicting a chart with taking moon as the ascendant is very common in India and in eastern countries. But as a rule, as per Brihad Parashara Hora Shastram and Maharishi Parashara explains that we need to take ascendant as the first point of calculation or interpreting a chart. Now, the planets placed in the ascendant have a vital influence on a person's physique, knowledge, the way he looks, the overall results, health, childhood, self, head. So all these are indicated by the ascendant, namely called the Tanu Bhava. Now these bhavas are based upon a logic, and this logic is very simple to understand. Say for example, I go to someone's house after a long time. Now as soon as I enter the house, what would be the questions put by the host? Probably it would be, how are you? That would be the first question. Are you fine? So these results of how are you or fine can be found with the help of the ascendant. For example, if a person has, say, Mercury in his ascendant, his physique would look good. He would have a good physique. He would have nice hairs, nice eyesight, and he would be jovial by nature. So, such indications are there if Mercury is present in the ascendant. Similarly, the next question which would be put if I go to one of my relatives' house or a friend's house would be, how is your family? How are your parents? And if there are children, how are your children? And are you earning well? So the second house represents the income, the family, the education, the initial education, what we see, the wealth which we have, and kind of food which we have. So it represents the family, wealth, speech, and food. So the next question, what would be put, would be if there are any brothers or siblings, then they would probably ask, how are your brothers? How are your siblings? What they are doing? So the third house represents the siblings, the courage of a person, the loss of parents, even diplomas are all represented by the third house. Now, the next question would be about formal education, happiness, heart, mother, property, possessions, heritage. So, it is it is generally this happens that when a family is searching for a son-in-law, or they are searching for a boy for the girl, these are the questions which are aligned in sequence to find whether the uh, boy is well off for the marriage. So the fourth house represents the happiness, the general well-being of mother, property, possessions, and heritage, and so on. The next is the fifth bhava, regarding children. It also represents intelligence, creativity, entertainment, or fortune, the deity which we pray. So the next bhava is called the Ripu bhava. The second bhava is called the Dhana bhava, or the second house is called Dhana bhava. Third is called Sahaja bhava. Fourth is Sukha bhava. Fifth is Sutta bhava, or children. Sixth is Ripu bhava, or enemies and obstacles. Now, it is represented by debts, uh, diseases, enemies, service, loss of relationships. So the sixth house is house of obstacles and diseases and enemies. Similarly, the seventh house is Jaya Bhava, or the spouse, and it also represents business partnerships and contracts and signifies all other matters, sensual union, and so on. The eighth house is Mrityu Bhava, or the death. It represents death, long-term diseases, transformation, mysticism, mysteries of the universe, fortunes. Laws of fortunes is also shown by the eighth house. The ninth house, however, is the Dharma Bhava, or the religion, and from ninth house we can find out about father, fortune, religion, God, Guru, law, faith, protection, and humanity. The tenth bhava is called the karma bhava, or the work, what we do. Career, prestige, raise, success, fortune of the fathers, reputation of the father, government, material success are all indicated by the 10th house. The 11th house is the Labha Bhava, and it is represented by gains, desires, friends, older siblings, and selfishness. The 12th Bhava, however, represents loss. It's called Vyavya Bhava. And donations, liberation, losses, old age, private pleasures, and temples are all represented by the 12th house. Now, these are very few significations. There are numerous number of significations of each house in astrology. Now, as we discussed before, any house, any sign can become any of the houses. It depends upon the ascendant, and planets can be placed in any of the signs as well. So, while interpreting, we have to see the house, the planets, the bhava, the lord of that bhava, the placement of that lord of the bhava in the other houses. So, all this strength has to be considered. The friendship of planets has to be considered, because one set of planets are inimical to the other because their nature differs. For example, the nature of Jupiter is to preach, is to uh, enjoy life in fullest, but after following the Vedic codes, the moral codes of life. But on the other hand, Rahu is a planet which doesn't know whether what is right and what is wrong. It's confused, so it keeps trying so many other things to be peaceful in life. And it's a planet which wants to break all taboos, regulations. It doesn't follow the Vedic scriptures. So there is a contradiction between the nature of that particular planet and Jupiter. And that's the reason Jupiter is against Rahu. And that's why we see that when Jupiter and Rahu are together, there's a big confusion in a person with regard to what is right for him in life. So Jupiter needs to be strengthened if Rahu has to come down. Rahu is the attitude of the modern scientists who feel that there are no moral codes, there is no spiritual laws governing us. Everything is material, so anybody can do anything to anyone else. That attitude given by planet Rahu. On the other hand, the attitude that we are supposed to follow our moral codes, we are supposed to follow the Vedic scriptures, we have to respect our elders, we have to respect our gurus and teachers and God. So, all moral values are taken care by the planet Jupiter, uh, and that's why he is the guru or the real teacher for each and every living entity. Now, all these qualities and talents are present within us. It's not that it's not present, it's simply that we are not trying to tap that energy, because placement, the planets cannot be removed from us. These planets are their living entity, they are influencing them. But what kind of influence we should receive depends upon the kind of attitude and what we want actually in life. And that free will is given to us by God. It's not that everything is predestined, it depends upon our attitude and action, which is going to decide our near future. So, this is a brief description about the houses. So, the next which we have to understand is the lordships of each sign. The sign Leo belongs to Sun. Leo is a king. It is ruled by lion. The symbol is lion. So Sun is a king. Moon or a crab, represented by crab, is the sign is Cancer. Not the disease cancer. This is a crab. A crab is like always fluctuating. It's in water and in land. So the crab's attitude is there with uh, that a kind of emotional disturbance is present with the sign Cancer because they are highly emotional. And whenever planets are placed in that particular sign of Cancer, it does have on that planet. It depends upon the kind of signification that planet gives, and in such matters, the person would be emotional. So, Leo is ruled by Sun, and Cancer is ruled by Moon. And if we see in a king's court, there is the king and then the queen. So, Sun is the king and queen is Moon. Then there are two planets, which are Mercury, and Mercury is an innocent child or an immature, an youngster. And then they are ruled by the ministers, or we can say the spouse of the child, Mercury, the daughter in law. These are all represented by planet Venus, and that's why Venus rules the next two signs of Taurus and Libra from Sun and Moon. And then we require people to work, and this is represented by Mars, uh, the soldiers, the protectors. So, protectors are ruling the signs Aries and Scorpio. And then we have we need teachers or the preachers who can guide. So they are guided by Jupiter, and then there are the other two planets. So there are other two planets which are Saturn, Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter and Saturn are, and they are trying to guide us at every moment. But because most of us don't listen, that's why we are put into troubles in life. So Rahu and Ketu do not have their own houses, but it is said by the scholars that Scorpio is owned by Ketu and Aquarius is owned by Rahu. So they share their planetary lordships with Mars and Saturn. And that's why in Sanskrit it is said that Kujavat Ketu and Shanivat Rahu. So it's somewhat similar, but their nature is different. Saturn would punish a person only when he does something wrong. He does not follow the scriptures and is not maintaining equality, or it wants to teach the bitter truths of life to the person. But on the other hand, Rahu is an bodiless person. It's simply head. So it uses the intelligence more, and it does not think about the moral values of life. So it's similar with Ketu. Ketu is a headless planet. It's a planet which is anger, somewhat like Mars. Mars gets angry for things which are right, not for things which are not right. But Ketu are people who are eccentric, and that's why we see highly spiritual people being eccentric at times. It's because of the influence of the Ketu. So Ketu is more a headless planet. where it gets angry without taking proper thought. So these are some of the things which has to be known fundamentally to understand the basic ways of prediction. Now there are various yogas. Yogas are nothing but combination of planets or placement of planets in such a way that they create a particular kind of influence of the human being, and it helps them to a great extent. There are certain yogas like the Buddha Aditya Yoga, the Gajakesari Yoga, or something of such kind, which does give a lot of fame to the person. So, for example, in today's chart, Jupiter and Moon are together in uh, Jupiter is in Ashwini and Moon is in Bharani, so they are in same house in Aries. So this could give rise to a very good yoga for a person who is born today. Similarly, Sun and Mercury are in the 10th house. So person born today, and if it happens to be the 10th house, then that particular person would have great interest in politics, and he would be highly successful with regard to administrative job, and he'll have a good intellect. So all this can be predicted with the astrology chart of a person. Now, does this mean that everything is predestined? It's not so. Within an astrological chart, we have an option. We have an option to choose the righteous path, the passionate path, and an ignorant path. Now, all the three are possible. Now, it depends upon us what we want to choose. So, the option is given in astrology to us to choose whatever we like. If we are going to take the passionate path, then probably initially we'll be peaceful, but then later on in life we would suffer for the mistakes what we done. If we take the right path, probably initially we might have to put a lot of effort, but then the success would be assured and we can lead a peaceful life. But if we take up the ignorant path, right from the beginning we will have to suffer, and even in end we won't be able to remain peacefully. So astrology opens up varied combinations, permutations, combinations, and talents and qualities within a person, and it helps us to gain confidence in life. But of course, the ultimate purpose of astrology is to make us realize that this material world cannot give us permanent happiness. So we have to grow spiritually, and to understand our present level of spirituality and qualities and talents, and by using those qualities and talents to grow spiritually, we can ultimately attain our final goal of life, which is to realize ourselves and our intimate relationship, the supreme self. So this is a brief introduction on what astrology is, how predictions are made, and what are we supposed to do to uh, gain this knowledge. So as I discussed before, it's not necessary that you uh, all cannot learn astrology. It's not so. Astrology can be commercialized, which is being done today, which is not so right, but still astrology serves everyone, but it has to be used by people who are logical, who want the welfare of the society. There could be certain chart which shows that the person would not be truthful or he would be a cheater. He has to be informed that such combination is present, and if he is going to do that, he is going to suffer in later part of life. Now that's the duty of an astrologer, is to correct the person, is to find out where he could go wrong or where he could be deceived. So such things will happen if we do not follow the guidelines given by them. So, in our next set, we would start from the scratch to understand each of the concepts in astrology. Thank you.